Good morning, good morning, good morning. I just want to welcome all the humanists here today. Let's enjoy today and this soon to be a holiday season, Thanksgiving, that I want to welcome you all here today, including the folks on Zoom. We do have a reader. I believe it's Lauren. Lauren, can you come on in and do our reading this morning?
This morning, I thought that we would do something a little bit unusual. We can think back about, I think all of us can do this, the kind of TV that we used to watch when we were kids. And people of my generation, that's, people over 80, are going to recognize each one of the samples that I'm going to provide this morning. But the thing that is interesting to reflect on is that the kind of TV that kids watch today is utterly, totally different from the samples that you're going to experience right now. So I'll just get started. We've only had 3 minutes. The first one is Superman. I used to watch Superman in the 1950s. And the intro went like this. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel with his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. Notice that last line. That kind of a theme about encouraging patriotism in young people in the 1950s is ever present here. The next one I'm going to do requires a slight prop. It has to do with law enforcement. I'm going to put this hat on here. And this is one of my favorites. It's Highway Patrol, and you may remember Broderick Crawford. The intro went this way. Whenever the laws of any state are broken, a duly authorized organization swings into action. It may be called the state police, state troopers, militia, the Rangers, or the Highway Patrol. These are the stories of the men whose training, skill, and courage have enforced and preserved our state laws. And then every once in a while, Broderick Crawford at the end of the show would come in with a very brief message in a gruff tone of voice, such as, the laws of your community are made for your protection. Obey them. You may remember that. Okay, keep the hat on, because the next one is Dragnet. This is a quickie, Jack Webb. The announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. And then Joe Friday comes in and says, this is the city, Los Angeles, California. I work here. I'm a cop. Okay. Change of hats. We're going to do 2 cowboy things. I couldn't find my cowboy hat, so just pretend that this is a cowboy hat. Here is the Lone Ranger. You may remember it was played by Clayton Moore. There won't be any reference to Tonto here, but maybe many of us remember that Tonto was played by a genuine Native American. I think his name was Jay Silverheels. Anyway, here's the intro. A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early West. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. The Lone Ranger rides again. Finally, another cowboy one, the Range Rider. Now, the Range Rider was played by an actor by the name of Jock Mahoney, and I did pronounce that correctly. It's Jock Mahoney, not Jack. And the intro went this way. A little bit of singing in the beginning. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. And who could be more at home on the range than the Range Rider? With his thrilling adventures of the great outdoors, his exciting experiences rivaling those of Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, Buffalo Bill, and other pioneers of this wonderful country of ours. and his sidekick, Dick West, All-American Boy. So those are the ones I had this morning. There could have been more, but we only have 3 minutes.
Lauren, that was great. And all the shows that I remember those shows. I was a little girl, but I was watching all of them. So thank you for some good laughs and some good memories. Oh, we got to ask, I got a question from the audience here. Can you show us your t-shirt and tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, my t-shirt, it's one of my geeky physics t-shirts. This in particular is the Dirac equation, which is takes quantum theory and relativity and melds them together, resulting in the prediction of the spin of the electron and and the existence of antimatter. That's it. My t-shirt, if you work out that equation, will predict the existence of antimatter. Isn't that something?
It is something. Thank you so much, Lauren. You just keep us happy. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you this morning. Well, I am thrilled to be introducing the executive senior director of public affairs from Central City Concern, Juliana Lukasik. Did I say it right? Okay, Lukasik. Central City Concern is something I hold very, very dear. I work with two nurse practitioner and a naturopath who work at Central City Concern in wound care. And we're so lucky to have this organization here in Portland. So please, thank you so much for Juliana for presenting today. I'm thrilled that you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And while I share my screen and get all that set up, I'll just say that I'm really, really impressed with your first speaker. That was fun.
Yeah.
I remember most of that. So maybe dating myself a little bit. So I think that we're sharing. Let me go full screen. So yes, hi everybody, and hi to the folks on Zoom. I am Juliana Lukasik, and I'm the Senior Director of Public Affairs for Central City Concern. And that means I'm in charge of all things related to media, public relations, fundraising, policy, public policy. So I work with a lot of politicians and communications. So I wear a lot of hats. And the joy of my job is that my day-to-day is that I get to tell stories for a living. And that's why I love what I do. It is an incredible gift to be able to take people's stories that are priceless and share them with our community. So I truly, truly love that. The way we're going to do this today is I'm going to start with some sort of homelessness kind of meta facts, sort of what's happening. And then I'll talk about Central City Concern. I'm going to try to get to the end of my talk as quick as I can within reason. I won't speed up my talking because I tend to talk too fast anyway. But there may be a lot of questions. Our community right now, every day is different, and we're experts in this field, and things are changing so fast that we can't keep up. So some of the things that are even in this slide deck that is about 3 months old might not be accurate anymore. So I want to give lots of time to sort of give the ability for folks to ask their questions. And everything's on the table. It's up to you all. I want to immediately mention that this is a heavy, heavy topic we're talking about today. And I'd like everybody to just take a moment to think about how they're going to treat themselves after this, because it's heavy, it's tough what's going on in our community. So I would encourage you all to have some thought towards self-care later. I always tell people, do something that you love after you hear me speak about some of these topics, because it's hard. So I do a lot of self-care. So I encourage you all to do it as well. So let's jump in that. We'll do questions at the end. All right. So has anybody ever heard of the point in time count? Point in time count is a required federally required count of homeless population in the region, city of Portland, that happens every 2 years. I'm not going to read you all of this, but I want you to know that in general, how it happens is a big crew of volunteers go out into the community and they interview folks from the homeless community. And what they're trying to determine is how many people are out there. It happens over 1 day in the winter. And you can imagine how flawed this source of information is. Folks might not be, they might not be comfortable talking to people. They might be in RVs that aren't accessible. They might be hidden in areas that make them feel safe, but we can't find them. And so it's it's an undercount by every estimate, but it's the only source we have right now for counting folks that are outside. We need to change that. That is not an accurate way to count for data. We do know anecdotally, because we will get to what Central City Concern does, but there's around 8,000 people right now living either outside or without a home in Portland. And that might be people who are doing things like couch surfing, you know, that don't have a place, but are relying on friends and family to help them. And it's not a sustainable situation. So the number's around 8,000, we believe. So what is some drivers of homelessness? Some individual factors that are almost always prevalent are adverse childhood experiences, serious mental illness, substance use disorder, personal history of violence. And this is super significant, this next one. Recently, as recent as the last couple years, simply being over the age of 55 is an indicator for being homelessness. So all of us who are over the age of 55, I am at high risk of becoming homeless just because of my age. And the reason for that is because of our healthcare system. Folks could have a illness or an injury that keeps them from working, and they may have rent insecurity, and so they lose their rent because they can't work, and therefore they become homeless. So that is a really new one, and actually Central City Concern is going to be working a lot on how to manage the aging population. That is part of our strategic plan moving forward. So then there are some structural factors like the absence of affordable housing, the absence of meaningful wage and employment, absence of mental health and recovery service, racism and discrimination, and interaction with the justice system. The quote, when structural factors become more pronounced, individuals with fewer individual vulnerabilities become homeless and rates of homelessness rise. I'm not going to go too deep into this slide, but it talks about our affordable housing crisis. And the West Coast we're in trouble. The West Coast has a severe lack of affordable housing. The whole country does. But the West Coast, with its affluence, NIMBYism, and a lack of a plan for building affordable housing, we're in really bad shape right now. I think everybody knows that. I don't think that's a surprise. So individual factors versus structural factors. Supportive affordable housing, direct access to housing, which supports lifestyle change. I'm going to go back here. Integrated healthcare. These are solutions. Integrated healthcare. Services that are highly effective at engaging people who are often alienated from mainstream. So I'm going to admit something, you guys. This slide rarely is active for me, so I'm not as used to this slide. So let me start over. I'm like, what's this slide doing? But Dave is so great. He actually made the slide work for me for once, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually animated. Here are some actual solutions for really effectively addressing what folks are experiencing in the homeless community. So you've got supportive, affordable housing. We're going to talk about different kinds of housing here in a moment. Direct access to housing, which supports lifestyle change. The right kind of housing for whatever that person is experiencing. Integrated healthcare services that are highly effective at engaging people who are often alienated from mainstream systems. attainment of employment through or accessing benefits. Central City Concerns magic is that we integrate housing, healthcare, and employment under one program. When you add employment services to the continuum of care at any point, the chances of a successful recovery increase 7 times. 7 times by adding employment. Yet that is one of the areas, one of the programs that we have the hardest time getting funding for. Positive peer relationships, that's so important. Development of peer relationships that nurture and support personal transformation and recovery. Those are groups. The reason that one of the reasons why we have seen a decline in outcomes, successful outcomes, it relates directly to COVID. We were not able to do groups, and groups are an important part of somebody's recovery journey. And as we all know, COVID made that impossible. And so we're only now starting to get back to that level of care again, and it is absolutely critical. So facts about homelessness. In every survey of people experiencing homelessness in Portland, the vast majority say they do not want to be living on the streets. So I just want everybody to kind of think about that, you know, because you hear in the news that these are people who are lazy, or they just don't want to work, or they want to stay out there. That's not true. They do not want to. They just have, in many cases, a lack of trust for the services that can help them. The percentage of people experiencing homelessness who moved to Portland from another location is about the same as the percentage of housed people who moved from Portland from another location. So think about that. You hear this all the time. People are coming in from out of state in droves to come to Portland and get our services because our services are so great. Well, I can tell you our services are not great. I'm a service provider and we're struggling. We're not gonna sugarcoat that. We do it with our best practice. We are really good at what we do, and we're having a hard time. What is happening is this. When you hear that, and this is one of the things that I'm going to encourage you all to do, is sort of help educate your communities. What's happening is that these folks that are coming to Portland are in fact coming from outside, but it's from other places in Oregon. It's rural communities. It's counties like Clackamas County and Washington County, who literally said to us about 2 months ago that prior to this year, their plan for helping somebody was to buy them a bus ticket to Portland. So think about that. These are Oregonians, majority. Sure, there are some folks that are not from Oregon. These are Oregonians, and the rural communities are being affected enormously right now. There's a lack of services out in the rural communities, and folks need help, and they come to Portland because we have at least a little bit better level of services than their rural communities. So that's a really important distinction when you hear. Now, the RV situation is a little bit different. You can also see that there's a lot of folks from Southwest Washington that are in our community. So that is the one area, since we're so close to Washington, that we do see a lot of folks coming from. Substance use can be a factor in homelessness, but often substance use disorders arise after people lose their housing. So let's go back to the aging population, the person who lost their housing and now doesn't have a place to be. They start using to survive on the streets. It is dangerous out there. It is really difficult to survive. And some folks are using different substances just to stay awake at night so they can be safe. And when the drug supply was not as potent as it is now, they could manage that. But now people are getting highly addicted to very dangerous drugs. All right, facts, more facts. People who are living in camps do have trash like everyone else, but the amount of trash they produce is not more than housed neighbors. It's just more visible and doesn't get picked up every week. Housed people often dump trash at homeless camps. A 2021 study estimates about a 53% of people living in homeless shelters and 40% of unsheltered people were employed either full-time or part-time. So these are folks who are working, but are still not able to meet the costs of the housing in this community. Or they simply can't get that deposit, that first deposit, or they do not succeed in a background check. These are some really significant reasons. People experiencing homelessness are overwhelming victims of crime, not perpetrators. So we've got folks outside that are being trafficked. They're being forced to sell drugs. And that's the reality of what's going on in our community right now. So let's talk about Central City Concern. Everybody take a deep breath, and ooh, that was a lot of hard stuff. So Central City Concern, we are a very large nonprofit. Folks, raise your hand if you've heard of Central City Concern. Okay, good. These numbers are actually from 2022. In 2023, we're seeing increase because we're trying to increase our level of service to our community. But in 2022, we housed 4,542 people. That's 2,200 homes, over 30 properties. We offer housing choice, alcohol and drug-free housing, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, family housing, housing first, which is low barrier, and housing for people exiting. We have 13 clinics serving 8,000, almost 9,000 folks in 2022. So that's integrated primary and behavioral health care, community mental health services, subacute detoxification. Hooper Detoxification is the largest detoxification facility in the entire state, which serves 4,000 people per year. 4,000 people coming through our Hooper Detox. Inpatient, outpatient recovery services, acupuncture and naturopathic treatments, and pharmacy. And then we mentioned employment. We helped 1,400 people in 2022 find jobs or meaningful employment. And we do that through volunteer opportunities, the Community Volunteer Corps, one of my favorite programs that we do, training and mentorship through transitional jobs, and one-on-one supportive employment services specific to the individual and community needs. A little history. We're about to celebrate our 45th anniversary.
Wow.
I know. A lot of folks don't realize how long we've been in the community. And we started in 1979. And we were mainly a place that our mission at that time was to help mainly inebriated men find housing. There was a, Skid Row, they used to call it. And folks were just sleeping outside and it was very dangerous. And so we started doing housing. So that was our primary thing. And we did, as we went along, we started to buy housing. So we own and operate most of our properties, not all, but most. And we started adding in some services like acupuncture, and that we saw success with that. And it was a great way to help people. We in 1980 we started with our Old Town Clinic in 2001, which was a really major step towards including the healthcare aspect of what we were doing. So that, housing, bringing in healthcare. In 2019, a significant moment in time happened. That picture up here is our Blackburn Center at 122nd and Burnside. And Blackburn was built by a community of partners. The healthcare systems, including Providence, Legacy, Kaiser, OHSU, I may have missed somebody, MODA, came together and helped fund us building this facility, which is a place where we do all of our services. They're all on site: housing, healthcare, and employment. And so what is significant about that is the partnership and how effective a partnership is, and how effective it is when all of the people, all of the entities in the community support an effort. And Blackburn, unfortunately and fortunately, started in 2019, which was less than a year before COVID. And so we hit the ground running, and it's been a roller coaster ever since. So that's today Blackburn's doing really well. We're learning a lot on where we're at, but that's a really difficult part of the community. It's a very high crime neighborhood. We work very closely with the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association to help them understand why it's important to have a facility like Blackburn in their community. As I like to say to them, we're not the problem, we're the solution. All right, let's talk about supportive housing, which is pretty complicated. There's a lot of different kinds of supportive housing. So there's recovery housing, which is designed to support participants in their chemical dependency treatments and early recovery efforts. We have low barrier housing, which is meeting people where they're at with immediate and accessible housing. We have transitional housing. People stay from 6 months to 2 years as they gain stability. And we have permanent housing for folks that are going to need support of some sort, but this is their permanent home. We're getting to something that I'll talk a little bit about as we go through, but folks ask me, what's the solution, what is the one solution to ending homelessness? And I'm like, there are as many solutions as there are people out there, because every person needs something different. They're individuals, they're unique. And so we really have a mission of meeting people where they're at. And for some folks who are coming out of our detox facility, Hooper Detox, going to drug and alcohol-free housing is 100% what they need. But some, that won't work. They need to be somewhere inside and safe immediately. And so we have all sorts of different opportunities. Some folks might need extra support for their mental health. So we are tailoring our response to the individual. We have family services. We call it FAN housing. It's supportive housing for families with young children. It provides on-site services such as recovery support, parenting, and financial skills classes. We have the Letty Owings Center. Has anybody here heard of the Letty Owings Center? One, we got one, yay. It's for pregnant and new mothers struggling with substance use. So this is a place where women can come and they have children under the age of 5. And our treatment is to help them reunify their families. We have 20 beds there and sometimes 30 kids. And we're getting folks stabilized and we're helping them recover. We have, I think, 20 beds, 23. I might have that number wrong. It's somewhere around 23 beds. And in the entire state of Oregon, there are something like 53 total beds. That means places for women who fit this category. Can you imagine how much more of that we need? I mean, we have half of those here in Portland, and it's a catastrophically low number. Women need that support, and there is not a lot of options for them. So we've got housing, we've got healthcare, integrated care centers like Blackburn Center, Old Town Campus, and the retail clinic and pharmacy. Integrated meaning there's primary care, there's pharmacy, there's support service, there's SUDS, which is substance use disorder treatment, on site at all of these facilities. We have residential care in our actual housing, Hooper Detoxification, the recuperative care program, and as I mentioned, the Letty Owings Center. I'm going to talk about the recuperative care program. The recuperative care program is an innovative program that Central City Concern has been doing for some time. It is a place for folks who would be who are severely ill, have been in the hospital in intensive care, and would otherwise be released to homelessness. And we have a place for them. We, as of a year ago, had 52 beds for them at our Blackburn Center. And these are folks that are suffering from a lot of things. They might have had surgery. They might have advanced diabetes. They might have heart conditions. They have all sorts of things that are really, really challenging from a health perspective. And you can only imagine what their outcome would look like if they went out and lived outside. We, through a partnership with several funding sources, recently expanded that program. And this is super exciting. We're now up to almost 90 beds. We bought a Comfort Inn on 82nd, close to I-84, which allowed us to flip it much more quickly to these services. This is our second, they call it a turnkey project. It's our second time we've bought a hotel, and we're able to turn it into housing very quickly. Normally, it would take us 3 years. We were able to open one of our other facilities, Riverhaven, in about 11 months, and that is significant. We are big fans of turnkey projects. We're working with Clackamas County right now. Fingers crossed, they actually some of you may have heard they were all set to do one, and they decided against it at the very last second. But we're hoping that they are going to improve their behavior now and have services in their county, and things are actually looking good over there. We have culturally specific program. These are super important. People who are culturally aligned, look like the people they're serving. We have 4 programs. We have Puentes, which is serving our Latinx community. We have the Imani Center and Caribou, and they are serving our Black community. And we have Flip the Script, which is helping people navigate when they come from the justice system, when they come from an carceral setting. And these are folks that look just like them, helping them, folks with lived experience, helping them navigate. The outcomes are incredibly improved when you do this kind of culturally specific work. Who our clinics serve? The majority of our clients have experienced homelessness. Many have an active substance use disorder. Can you hear me okay? I don't know if I moved wrong or something. I lost my, oh no, I doubt that. I'll take blame. And more than half of them have a monthly household income of less than $100. I talked about social employment and social enterprise. If you said to me, what's the one thing that's just kind of low-hanging fruit that we could do more of to have better outcomes? I would say add employment to the continuum of care. Folks who have the ability to have a wage attainment are proud. They feel like there's a plan. They're hopeful. And how do you get folks to leave our housing continuum? And so we can allow more folks in. We need them to have a living wage. And so employment services is critical. A social enterprise is I'll tell you about social enterprises. They are programs that we have here at Central City Concern that employ the people that are coming from our continuum of care. One of them you have probably all seen. If you've seen a person with a penny on push called Clean and Safe, pushing their barrel around downtown, that's our Clean Start program. They're cleaning up for the city of Portland. And they have been working in downtown for many, many years. They expanded to the east side. And recently, the Clean Start program has expanded even further. We have gotten support from the governor, and we've gotten support from the Chair Vega Peterson to expand that program. Let me tell you about who's being served in those, who are those folks? Those folks have come from our housing. They are ready to work, and they have lived experience, and they're on their way to whatever their future is. And this job means so much to them. Their union wages, their benefits, they're great jobs. They are tough jobs, especially right now. But the folks that do this work are so proud. And if you see one of these folks, either downtown or in Central East Side or driving around in the trucks, please say thank you. They appreciate it so much when folks say something to them. It makes them feel really like they're giving back to the community. And many of them have not had a job in a while, and some of them have never had a job. So they are an important part of our community. During COVID, due to a lack of, I'm just going to say the city was not providing trash removal service. Central City Concern and the Clean Start program were about the only folks out there cleaning up the city of Portland. So without us, it's pretty devastating to think what would happen. And so we're very, very proud of that. And it's called a social enterprise. We also have the Community Volunteer Corps. The Community Volunteer Corps is a program to support people building sort of the soft skills and learning how to get back into the workforce. It will happen before Clean Start. And it's folks who are early in their recovery, who are now able to, they join the program. They have to do 80 hours of community work. So we work with Sunshine Division, we work with Oregon Food Bank, we work with the Parks Department and others. And the folks go out and they work, and they earn their 80 hours. And then one of the most beautiful things that ever happened at Central City Concern is those folks graduate. And we have a graduation ceremony. And each one of them, if they want, can just say something about what this has meant to them. And you have folks from all across the spectrum. You have young, older, all sorts of culturally specific folks. And they say things like, this program saved my life. This is the first time somebody's thanked me. This is the first time I've felt like I've given back to a community that I have harmed. I went to one earlier this year, and there was a lovely graduate named Chelsea. And she got up and she was very emotional, and she was extremely excited to be going through the graduation ceremony. She was 3 months into recovery. Fast forward to about a month ago, I was at the new graduation ceremony, and Chelsea was there, but now she was a program manager for the very program that saved her life. And it was incredible. I got goosebumps just now. I get a little emotional about it because Chelsea's just this perfect story of somebody who is like, she goes, I know what folks have gone through and I can help them. And she's giving back to her community. She now is employed with us. Significantly, of our 1,400 employees, we have 1,400 employees, 40% of them identify as having lived experience. That is another bit of why Central City Concern is as successful as we are, is because people who understand what people have gone through are helping them. And we're helping people, those folks have been employed by Central City Concern since their recovery. So it's an honor to work with those folks. And there is no one better able to help people who are currently needing help than the folks who have lived experience. So I mentioned the culturally specific programs. Flip the Script is integrated housing, employment, and peer support services for recently incarcerated African Americans. The Amani Center is outpatient mental health and addiction treatment services by and for African Americans. Puentes is outpatient mental health and addiction treatment for the Latinx Hispanic community and non-English speakers. They do not have a waiting list. They do not turn anyone away, and often work with folks who are undocumented and who are falling outside of the system in so many ways. And that is a program that is really important for our community. And then Karibu is our newest culturally specific program. It's a stabilization and treatment preparation for African Americans coming from incarceration with severe mental health concerns. We have 20 beds. It's a communal living situation with supported 24/7 counseling and healthcare workers that right there on site. It's out on Powell and about 26th. And we have those 20 beds are, we need a lot more of those, but we do have those 20 beds. And I think we have 15 people right now because we just don't want to pack people in too much, but it's a really wonderful program. I'd like to throw this in there so that you guys can sort of see what our values are. What are Central City Concern's values? These are the values that we as an organization and all of our team came after 2 years of work to try. It seems like something would be easy, right? What are our values? When you have 1,400 people, you have a lot of different people that have a lot of different experiences. And this was an effort that that helped us sort of come together as CCC community around these values of equity, compassion, collaboration, safety, learning, and sustainability. Folks often say, it's not working. What you're doing isn't working, or you would have figured out homelessness by now. And I always tell people we would love to be out of a job. We would love to focus on different kinds of housing, like workforce housing. We're starting to do more of that work. We would love folks to be successfully recovering so that we no longer had to have supportive services for folks. But that's not the reality we live in right now. So we're going to continue to be here and supporting folks that need it. Some of the things that are going on, we have Cedar Commons, which opened in June of 2021, and it was 60 units of housing, and it's an innovative model of housing for people with serious mental illness in a community where there are what we call fair market housing. So there's folks that have a need for supportive services and folks who are, this is their permanent home and they're living together in a community. River Haven is the one I mentioned to you. It is a turnkey project. It opened in 2021 with 70 rooms of transitional early recovery housing for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. All of our programs have a variety of ways that people get into those programs. In other words, what are the referral sources? So, you know, we might have walk-ins, we might have folks that get referred from the justice system, we might have folks that come from our own detox, Hooper Detox, the county, the city, sometimes the state. There's all sorts of ways that people get referred to our programs. Crescent Court Apartments opened in May of 2022. It's right next door to Cedar Commons, and it has 138 units. This is actually one that we co-operate. We don't own this one, or we might have an ownership stake, but it's not one of our typical properties. And we have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club out there. We love that. We have a holiday. If you want to go to my one plug for the day, if you want to help Central City Concern clients, we have a holiday wish program right now to help families who don't have the means to provide presents for their kids. So you can go to our website, centralcityconcern.org, and you can sign up to contribute to that program. It's a really cool program. So I love that program. So we're in that season right now. The Starlight, which is right downtown, corner of 6th and Everett, Northwest, Old Town. 100 units of housing, a partnership, and with a partnership with NARA, the Native American Rehabilitation Association. Lots of our properties have beds set aside for culturally specific or severe mental health folks that need that kind of support. So we do have a set aside for that kind of situation. So you can kind of see here, we have a lot of, we're all over the place. We're becoming more, we're getting more properties over on the east side, which starting with the Blackburn Center. We have one property down in Clackamas County, and we're talking about expanding into Clackamas County. So this sort of gives you an idea of how far our reach is. As you can see, the bulk of our properties are in Old Town, downtown. So at the very beginning, I talked about stories of recovery, and these are some of the stories. And I'm going to try to get to questions sooner, so I'm going to breeze through some of these stories, but they sort of show you how people, what's the golden thread? How do people come to Central City Concern, and what do they experience? So Brandy's story is that she started in the recuperative care program that I mentioned. She had a severe illness, and she started her journey at recuperative care. She went to Old Town Clinic, where she got enrolled in all of the Oregon Health Plan. She got primary care. She got medication supported recovery. She started doing groups with supported recovering housing. She needed mental health support, and she found acupuncture to be a really great solution for her. She currently works for us and is an incredible survivor. She had a very traumatic incident happen to her in another state, and we're very proud of Brandy. We have Ralph. Okay, so Ralph, this is fun. Ralph is a particular favorite of mine because Ralph, when I first met him, went by Ralph. He is a Samoan, and his name is like so long I can't pronounce it. Mm-hmm. And he changed to his name in honor of his heritage. He now goes by Coco. So I need to change this slide to Coco. And Coco is an incredible human being. He was on the edge of not surviving. He was considering taking his own life, but he decided to try Hooper. So he came to our detoxification center. He got into our mentor program. He became housed at Madrona Studios. He got enrolled at Old Town Clinic with all the health needs. The Community Volunteer Corps that I told you about, with that incredible program that helps folks take that first step into employment. He was the manager who moved to another position, and Chelsea replaced him. So you see how things work. People kind of find their path. Coco is incredible because what he's doing now is he's working in our safety team, and he helps de-escalate folks in our housing continuum who are suffering from a psychotic break. And Coco was attacked 2 weeks ago in that role. He's okay, and he's going to keep doing the work because he loves it. But what's happening right now, and that's why I'm leaving some time for question, is that the level of acuity with the drugs we're seeing in the community right now is causing psychosis at levels we've never seen before. And Coco is truly a hero. He has a way about him that just calms people down. And I'm really proud of him. And we have Anthony, who also started at Hooper and received outpatient treatment. He's a clean start hero. He is a supervisor now. He's incredibly shy and brave. He's like, okay, I'll tell my story. I don't think it's that cool. And I'm like, no, it is cool, Anthony. And when you talk to people about what you experienced, it helps them. Anthony's boss is Jay McIntyre, who is a very he's running that program. He's running Clean Start and our social enterprises. Jay, when I met him, was about 3 years from living under the Burnside Bridge. And now he's supervisor of this program. He's a director. These are incredible people. So lots of times folks go, Juliana, how do you keep doing this? That's why I keep doing this. That's how I keep doing it. So there are things you can do. You can pay attention to candidates' stances on homelessness and vote in every election if you can. If people want to talk about Measure 110, I will certainly talk about Measure 110, but let's not let it dominate all of the questions. So maybe we'll dedicate some time to 110 if you want to talk about it. But there are other ways you can urge your candidates to support what we need to do to help our community. You can create hygiene kits. Folks like communities get together, our business community gets together, and they create volunteer opportunities where they build hygiene kits for us to give out to folks that are either living outside, or we also have move-in kits. You know, folks come from outside and they have nothing. They need pots and pans and bedding and blankets. So we do things like that. Try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and be compassionate towards our unhoused neighbors. Meet their eye, say hello, you know, just acknowledge their existence. It feels very lonely when people won't even look at you. And that's really important. You can volunteer for organizations like Blanche House, Outside In. There's so many great nonprofits in this community. They're incredible. You can give to Central City Concern. That is our website. And again, back to that holiday wish program, a little plug for that for the kids. So that's my presentation for today. I'm 5 minutes early,
Juliana,
which is good. So I'm going to turn it over for questions.
Yes. Juliana, I had no idea that Hooper was connected to Central City Concern, that all these places that I know their names are connected to Central City Concern. I have to ask you, how do you get your funds for these wonderful programs? Where does that come from?
The bulk of our funding is Medicaid reimbursement. So that is one of the, so we're able to bill for services related to healthcare through Medicaid. There's a really exciting, complicated opportunity in Oregon right now called the 1115 waiver, which, if done correctly, which is a challenge, would allow us to bill Medicaid for housing. So think of it this way: housing is health. It's a federal government has recognized that and given us the opportunity to create a program that would allow us, for the first time in our history, in fact, there are only 5 states that they're giving this opportunity to add housing as part of their Medicaid reimbursement. So, so that's how we get the bulk of our funds. We do also, as I mentioned, I'm in charge of fundraising. So we do have fundraising. We do a lot of grants. We get funding from the city, the county, the state, the federal government. Starlight, which I told you about, the new building, has 56 funding sources. That's a problem, actually, because it's very complicated. Any funding source requires a great deal of administration and reporting. And so streamlining our funding is something that we're very interested in, but that is the bulk of our funding is from Medicaid reimbursement.
Okay. Thank you. I have a million questions, but I have to let it go to the crowd. Questioner number 1, please come in.
First of all, thank you. Thank you. Hey, you described how as people move into earning their own living and contributing to the community living, their sense of pride, of self-respect, of hope, maybe even days of joy. And I find that, and I'm sure we all find that so believable. But leaking from the far right of our body politic is a skepticism, an inclination to solve every problem punitively.
Mm-hmm.
And you've given us some good practical things, but I want to maybe see if you can comment some more on how do we pull more of our fellow citizens toward not seeing what you do so skeptically and seeing the concrete results and the hope. It's not just a matter of the life-saving differences you've made to individuals, but if you were to crassly set that stuff aside and just look at what it saves communities, because it's real there too. So any comments on some more maybe of how do we do better pulling people in this direction?
Yeah, thank you. Such a great question. And certainly when I think about what I do, the employment and the stories of recovery are my sweet spot, right? And so community education is what we're talking about, right? We've got intractable minds on the right who stigmatize folks coming from our community and have an idea of who is causing the problems. And, you know, we know that those folks have a lot of power and influence, and we really work hard. Why am I here on a Sunday morning talking to you all? Because I'm educating the community, and we have to do that. We have to start telling the stories of success. We have data that has recently, so another answer to your question is data, right? We are proving what we're saying. And we haven't always done that. Not Central City Concern. We're very good at collecting data on our own programs, but the community has to prove that to the taxpayers. We're stewards of your taxpayer dollars. We have to prove to you that what we're doing works and that it's effective. And the statistics around employment are new. Those are new statistics talking about 7% more likelihood of a recovery journey success, because that data didn't exist before. So we didn't have proof. And unfortunately, you know, just doing the right thing is not enough for a lot of folks. They are impatient. They want it to be fixed tomorrow. And that's not the reality. It took us decades and decades and decades to get into this situation. A lack of funding for housing, a deplorable amount of attention towards mental health services and support services around behavioral health. And so it's, for us, it's this, we've been here for 45 years. In some iteration, we'll be here for a lot longer. you know, even if it's not supply, hopefully not with this degree of acuity into the future, and being able to focus on housing for a lot of different types of people, including fair market and workforce, which we need desperately, and employment services, that may be our future. And so it's really trying to educate the community about that. This community that we're in, even though all you hear is the media, right? The media loves, they love to create turmoil. But I can tell you that the business community, the law enforcement community, the state, the electeds, they're all very, very engaged with us, Central City Concern and the other nonprofits. It's just there's not one leader. There's not a clear plan for moving forward. So I'm not sure I completely got to your question, but for me, the employment services part of this is just one of the most important things that we can be. I always say my job is to shout from the rooftops about what we need to do. So that's what I try to do.
Thank you. I have a question from Kathy, which I will read. How do people who are still unhoused deal with parts of life that revolve around an official address, such as voting, receiving Social Security benefits, or enrolling their kids in school?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. Thank you for asking that. They struggle. It is hard to do that. We have programs at Central City Concern, and there are a few others in the city that help people get re-engaged with those systems. So we're signing them up for the Oregon Health Plan. We're looking into their documentation. How do you get your Social Security card back? How do you get your driver's license back? How do you get your disability? There are many folks outside who have access to disability, but have lost the ability to collect it. Where do you send the check? How do you help those folks? So we have, for instance, a program where we are the fiduciary representative of several people. And so they come to us, and we have a bank account for them and a mailbox for them. And they're able to come and they come to us once a week and get help and get what they need. And we're serving, the ironic thing is that this is not just Central City Concerned people that we're serving the community, and we're having a very difficult time funding that program. So when people say, well, your Medicaid reimbursement and all of that funding sources that you're having is, you know, where are you spending that money? We're spending it on those programs that aren't fundable, that aren't sustainable, like employment services, like BBIS, which is the program that helps people with their documentation. So we're having to do that work because the funding sources are not sustainable for programs like that. It's a really good question. It is really challenging. There are some technology solutions that are starting to surface that are super exciting. An evergreen PO box. So an evergreen phone number. And what that means is somebody has a phone number and they switch phones or they switch providers, they keep the same phone number. They have a place where their mail can go that gets scanned and put shredded if needed, and can access a evergreen address. So those are some of the things that are in early stages right now, but we're doing a pilot project on a couple of those in the next upcoming year or so.
Well, once in a while, I try to talk to homeless people. I think I'm going to try a lot harder, but I was amazed at how many of the 4 or 5 people in the last month that 3 of them were had severe mental problems. I'm interested in not what percentage, but what types of mental illness that you run into. The ones I see, that must be, it's obvious, from a block away that they've got a problem. But
yeah. Okay, so this is get ready, folks. This is some hard stuff. So there's 2 types of things that are heroin's almost not being used at all anymore. It is all about fentanyl and a extremely dangerous version of methamphetamine. Fentanyl is are the folks that you see, unfortunately, in our community that are slumped over. They're sleeping, their heart, sometimes you don't even know if they're safe. You're hearing a lot of stuff about, it's real. My staff in Old Town, we reverse overdoses in Old Town at least 5 times a week, at least. And we have Narcan everywhere. I happen to carry it myself. And this is Narcan, and this is an inhaler, and you can learn how to use Narcan and when it needs to be administered and what to look for and all of that. It's important that people get the training. It's important that we have access of this in our community right now. This is an emergency. We're gonna have Narcan forever, but we need Narcan out there right now. I will get to answer your question, but that's what's happening right now with fentanyl. So yeah, I'll give you an example of Thursday. Our CEO, Dr. Andy Mendenhall, incredible leader for Central City Concern, was walking to a meeting in Old Town and spent 8 minutes giving rescue breathing to a person who had overdosed, and was able to revive him with 6 doses of Narcan. 6. And so this is happening a lot. I left downtown later that night, and I was driving by the Blanchet house where another person was being resuscitated. So that's fentanyl. And get educated about it, because it's going on in our community right now. And fentanyl is a part of every drug that is being sold in our community on the street right now. 90% of it has fentanyl in it. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be cocaine, could be meth, could be all of those things. What you're talking about is somebody who is under the influence of meth. Meth is a stimulant, and it is causing psychosis at a much faster pace than before. And so when I said engage with your community, acknowledge folks, be safe. If somebody's experiencing a mental health issue, you usually can tell, and they're not safe to engage with. If you see something, call 911. I know that everybody says that's a terrible solution. It's the only thing we've got right now. And you have to stay safe. But the people using the meth are the ones that are agitated. They're the ones that are suffering from the psychosis. The myth I'll break right now is they can recover from that. It just takes longer. It takes longer, and it takes more treatment. If anybody's interested in talking about the Sobering Center, which was in the news recently, I'm happy to talk about that. These folks aren't sobering up. They're going into withdrawal, and there's a real big difference there. So this is the super downer part of this conversation, but it's important that we understand it, because this drug supply is really dangerous right now.
Yeah, I just had a question about, you mentioned that you're talking about people coming out of prisons and back into society. Has that problem gotten less reduced as we've decriminalized all the drugs? The story we heard before was that, the justice system is overwhelmed by people arrested for minor drug crimes. Now we don't arrest people for that anymore. I would think that the number of people coming out of prison should be dropping pretty soon based on the decriminalization over the last few years. Is that working out the way we thought it, where fewer people are getting sucked into the prison system, and the police should have more time since they're not enforced and don't have to enforce those laws and all that? The police should have like extra people and should be doing a much better job with the other things. But you say that the homeless are all crime victims themselves. What's going on there?
So think of it as volume. Folks are really struggling right now. There's more people in the homeless community. There's more crime happening, and the incarceration and justice system is overwhelmed. So defunding Measure 110, which So saying we want to repeal 110 because we want it to be illegal again for somebody to use drugs. Our justice system cannot support that right now. So it would have devastating effects on our community to repeal Measure 110. 110 needs to be fixed. Central City Concern is taking a stance of no repeal, fix it. And what we mean is that we do need to see some accountability for folks. We need to find some ways to get people engaged in services. Our data shows that folks are not engaging in services. But it is a really, really complex topic because we don't have enough public defenders. We don't have enough ways. You cannot arrest yourself your way out of homelessness, right? That we voted for Measure 110 for a very, very good reason. We did it to help the communities that were being predominantly that we're seeing like the BIPOC community was having a really different experience in the incarceration world than white people. And Measure 110 funding goes towards behavioral health, and we need more behavioral health, not less. So what I'm telling folks is from our experience and expertise, we need to not repeal it, but actually fix it. And we have a platform that helps us figure out how to do that. So we do not have enough for the city of our size. We do not have enough police officers out helping. We are something like 300 short of what we should be. So there's not enough of that. They are not trained correctly. Who should be helping somebody who's having a psychosis? It's not somebody in a uniform with a gun. That doesn't work. Are they somebody from the BIPOC community? So we need to have different, like the programs where you have folks trained in de-escalation. Those are the important programs that we need to keep working on. So it's really complex, and it's all of the above, right? There's no black and white answer. There's no, we need to do this and everything will get better. We need to do it all.
I have so many questions. I'm going to try to
know.
keep it to 2 short ones. Here you're reaching out to us. So you're making us aware of the programs. Who makes the people in the camps aware of the programs? And how do you do that? And secondly, Sisters Road is still working, right? Because if so, they had post office boxes. Are they still offering that service as well?
Easy answer, not a great answer, is I don't know about Sisters of the Road. I know that they are still operating, so I would assume they still do. Thank you for the other question. Very excited to be able to answer that one. How do the people outside know about the services? We have a robust and growing outreach team. So when we talk about meet people where they're at, we are able to do so with our outreach workers. So these folks are out there. They're helping people. They're talking to them about what they need, trying to get them into services. And so those outreach teams are out there all the time. We just recently started doing what's called mobile medical, where we're taking medical teams out to where people are, meeting them where they're at. So on our very first day, we went to the site over at Clinton Triangle. It's a shelter site. And our medical team saw, I think, 30 people, gave dental care to 15 people who had never received dental care in their entire life. Wound care is a really, really big deal. It's very important. Folks need wound care. And they often are, they can literally lose limbs from infections. It's a really big issue for us. So we were able to, meeting people where they're at is really important for that. We also can start to navigate them and help them find services. The problem is we don't have enough services for all those folks. And we also have a massive we have behavioral health workforce is completely depleted. Folks are leaving the field. They're not paid enough for the work they do. And so that's some of the work I do on the policy level, is trying to help educate our elected officials about the importance of increasing wages for behavioral health workers. We're 45,000 behavioral health workers short deficit in the state of Oregon. 45,000. So the helpers, we need the helpers to go out and help people. And so it's outreach all the time, you know, and we need more services. And I will end our day with the one thing that we could fund that would make a huge difference. And I'll end it with that. It'll be my last thing, but we'll continue to take questions.
That's right. Okay, now I used to deliver mail in the downtown area. I mean, deep in the heart of downtown, and I saw a lot of business owners who were extremely frustrated with, you know, having their windows broken into and getting stuff ripped off. And I can understand, you know, the debilitating circumstances of addiction. But now, how do you handle, you know, that kind of resentment, which is, I think, what led into people cutting back on Measure 110. You know, can you reach out to these people, address that frustration that, you know, there's other factors involved in that rise of crime, or are these crimes being committed by people who, you know, are not homeless, but they're still feeding their addictions? I guess that's what I'm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Thank you for that. The acknowledging the community harm of what's happening in our in Portland right now is really important. People are harming themselves in their community, and it is hard to do business in Portland, downtown and close in right now. And before I came to Central City Concern, spent 20 years owning a small business. So I feel I'm very close to the folks that are experiencing this, and they're tired. They're having a hard time. It's not just the big property owners and the big businesses that you hear. It's the small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Small businesses are really having, at my, at the business one of the businesses that I know very well over in the Central East Side, they've had break-ins. They've had, broken windows, graffiti, you know, and all of these folks have to take care of that themselves. They don't have the resources to hire somebody and so forth. So it's very, very frustrating for them. And that is, and that combined with what's happening in our community and neighborhoods where folks are out walking with their kids and finding needles, and they're afraid because folks with psychosis are in their neighborhoods. That's scary. And so we have a lot of fatigue around these issues. And so, you know, Central City Concern's never going to be able to solve this by ourselves. We need a community working together to solve these problems. But Central City Concern does engage with a lot of community outreach. For instance, I spend a lot of time, I'm actually the lead in this area where I go out and talk to neighborhood associations a lot, talk to business communities a lot. And we talk about solutions. We talk about destigmatizing and talking about what's really happening. We also engage in sort of what does it look like for us to work together and solve these problems versus just constantly bringing up the problems versus trying to find solutions. So it's a hard thing that we're doing, but I will say that in the last 6 months, year, I've seen the community come together in a way I've never seen before. And that gives me hope. I've seen the governor and the county and the state and the metro. We've got a very complex system working with the business community on both sides of the political aisle to try to find solutions. I mentioned Clackamas County. Clackamas County is a really good example of a right-leaning county who led, not necessarily the county itself, but the elected officials who didn't want to have services in their community, and now are seeing the need for it and are actually doubling down and are about to announce and start construction of a behavioral health service center out in Clackamas County, which is like silver lining to me. It's like they got so much negative press for saying no to the turnkey project that now they're doing something that they probably wouldn't have done before. Silver linings. Washington County went from a $3 million annual budget for addressing homelessness to something like 28 million or something like that. So the funding is starting to show up, and folks are starting to talk about it. And what we're saying is, let's make sure we're spending it wisely and sustainably on programs that actually are going to affect us in a positive way.
You mentioned, Juliana, that there is no one really in leadership. I mean, we've had several groups. Home Play has spoken to us. I'm familiar with Portland Street Medicine, Inside Out. You all are working so hard. How does this state get leadership in this? That there's some direction for programs that work.
Yeah, it's such a great question. Such a great question. So, what's the plan, right?
Yeah,
That's what
what's
we
the
always say.
plan?
You know, it's like, wait, isn't there a plan? I mean,
There's-
you know, there's all these problems, and we're throwing a lot of money. We're putting a lot of money into this. What is the plan? And the plan is actually starting to form.
Okay.
And where's it going to come from? You know, it's the players that are super critical to this conversation are the governor, who is made, whose partner, First Lady, is a social worker, and she's very passionate about this topic and wanting to look at behavioral health and increasing behavioral health. So that's a really important part of the plan. She's got a Central City task force that is incredibly, it's got all of the players at the table.
Okay.
Which is new. We haven't done that before. And so she's leading an effort that is seeing results. We need to encourage, I'm being super, super nice here. We need to encourage the mayor and the chair of Multnomah County to work together to solve problems. That's hugely important. And we're still not to the place we'd like to be there, but we're at least starting to have those conversations. Every time I say that, I get a little anxiety because it's like, this is an emergency and I don't want to start a conversation. I want to be solving the problems. We are heading in the right direction. So there is hope, and you're going to start seeing things. Pay attention to some of the outcomes of these conversations.
Okay. So-
But what is the thing that we need to do? How do we need to spend the money to get ourselves out of the situation? And I'll tell you, it's residential treatment facilities, places for people who are acutely ill, who are harming themselves and their community, to be for a length of time to stabilize before they enter our continuum. Central City Concern is not able to manage people with the severe level of psychosis that we're seeing in our community. That's hard. That's a hard thing I just said, and it is happening. So somebody who is not ready for our continuum of care might come into our housing continuum, and they might be experiencing mental health situation that thinks that this is a true story. The person thinks they're on fire. And so they try to put themselves out, and they end up flooding the unit, which ends up flooding the building, which creates a situation in our continuum of care where we are becoming uninsurable because the insurance rates go up because there's so much damage. A situation like that could cost $250,000 worth of damage. And those are happening a lot because the person needs more support than they're being assigned to for our continuum. So those are acute behavioral health treatment facilities. The Oregon Health Authority, the Oregon State Hospital, is a place where that is. They have beds, they have places for people. In the last few years, they have, prior to 2022, they had about 300 people per year that were civilly committed to those places, people who needed help at that level and were able to get into the Oregon Health Hospital, the hospital. That's no longer true. Those 300 people are no longer allowed into the Oregon State Hospital because the folks that are there now are folks who have done a crime or harmed somebody and have been committed through the criminal system. So where are those 300 people that would have been civilly committed every year? They're out in our community and they're suffering, and we need to find help for them. So that is a really, really clear call to action. We need places for people with that level of acuity to stabilize so that they can make decisions to help themselves. And that is a tough topic. And let's not end there. Let's ask another question that we can have some more hope and joy, because there is a lot of joy in the work I do too.
I noticed that you instead, you said, let's get toys for kids. That's such a joyful statement. Let's make sure our children that are living in their cars, that are living on the street, have a Christmas. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, what happens with the donations that people give you for this program?
Yay, what a lovely question. So we do a couple things. We do the holiday gift guide. So that's a way for nonprofits to support each other. So it's a program where you can donate to the holiday gift guide, but like Central City Concern will partner with the Humane Society or the Feral Cat Network, and we'll sort of promote each other. It's a really cool program. So there's the holiday gift guide. There's the gift program that I told you about, where you can go and get connected with a family, and you can supply them with, they have a Amazon wish list, and you can buy some things for them and make sure they have a great Christmas. So there's lots of ways, and you can find out more information about that on our website. And it is, our family housing is just such an incredible program. You've got, kids and families that are working together and living together and helping each other. And it's really, really wonderful. So thank you for asking about that.
And I just want to thank you for your wonderful work. I'm just really moved that you would give up a small business to do the support that you do. Thank you. Just thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for having me here today. As I said, I can stick around, and I am just so honored to be engaged with you all. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And what a wonderful way to spend my Sunday. So thank you.